Welcome to the Open Door Policy. Each week on this podcast, we sit down with a different guest and talk about a letter. Archbishop Vigneron's Unleash the Gospel Pastoral Letter.
Let's do it. Let's talk about it.
All right.
Be about it.
Each guest we have on this show we think is living it out in a new and exciting way. Before we get started, if you like what you hear and you want to help us be part of this movement to unleash the gospel, be sure to subscribe and share our podcast with your family and friends. And while you're at it, leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. On Open Door Policy this time, we hear from Deacon Drew Mabee, a man preparing for the priesthood who loved motocross as a child and found Christ while he was in college.
Hey, Father Steve.
Hey, Danielle.
How are you today?
I'm great. How you doing?
Also so great. Did you have any recent graces in your life?
Yeah, I have a lot of graces. I love the summertime. So the fact that we're in summer is a huge grace for me. And I guess one of the particular graces of summer is work slows down a little bit and the days are longer. I get to spend more time outside and be with family and friends. And just loving the summer. We
got a new friend here. Hey, Deacon Drew.
Hey, Deacon.
Hey.
Welcome to the Open Door Policy podcast studio.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's good to be with you both.
Are you ready for rapid fire questions?
I suppose, yeah.
Okay, first one. What is your most used emoji?
I actually tend to use the one with the glasses and kind of like I don't know if you say buck teeth or kind of like the silly grin. I use that one a fair bit, so we'll say that one. Yeah.
Okay, what would be your walk-up music?
Oh man, probably Gregory Alan Isaacoff.
Okay.
This is gonna be strange.
That's great though.
Remember when our songs were just like prayers?
Deacon Drew, what's your favorite piece of religious art?
What's the guy?
Jesus?
Thank you. Who's the one that has light and darkness? I can't even think of his name right now.
Caravaggio.
Caravaggio.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So Caravaggio has this image, I have in my room actually, of Thomas putting his hand into Jesus. I have many, many, many more than that, but
you love that one.
I do love that one, amongst many others. So.
Awesome. What do you think is overrated?
Overrated. I think this might sound kind of crazy because we're doing social media stuff, but I think the massive amount of like electronic kind of have to be on everything kind of thing. I think that's just a bit overrated, personally.
Okay. What literary character would you want to be your friend?
Yeah, is there any favorite story?
I'm reading Brothers K right now with my bro, and I suppose the literary character, I don't know if you'd call him quite a literary character, though he's in a piece of literature, so he'd be a character.
Yeah.
Is the, I can't think of his name, but the monk confessor at the monastery.
In the Starets.
What is his name?
Father Zosima the Elder, from the novel The Brothers K, a high church authority, boundless in wisdom. He was considered a living saint.
Anyways, I'd love to be friends with him. He's like just a gentle, compassionate confessor, and like a lot of deep, profound insight into the mystery of our humanity. So I would love to kind of roll with that guy, amongst many others. But that's like the most current one that I'm kind of sitting with right now. So
love it. What's your favorite hymn?
What wondrous love is this?
What season would you be?
Fall.
Deacon Drew, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think it's Charles Piggy that has this line, the only tragedy in life is to not have been a saint. I heard that in RCIA from Father John, and I thought that was just that struck me many years back, and it still strikes me to this day.
Great. What is your favorite Bible story?
I heard the prodigal son millions of times, but just given my own life, when it was pitched to me in a very particular way in college, it just has struck me profoundly. So. And
lastly, what non-traditional pet would you want to have?
I wouldn't mind having a chimp.
Like a chimpanzee?
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
A chimpanzee, yeah.
Just went to the zoo this weekend. So, let's go back over a little bit of these.
Yeah, let's do it.
This past week,
yeah.
Side wound of Thomas, Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Yeah, sure.
Is that why you love it so much, or is there another reason you really like that Caravaggio piece?
I do like it, I think, because so when I came into the church, actually, I remember reading that passage as I was kind of journeying through, I think it was right before RCIA, and it was just kind of another pivotal moment of me knowing that the Lord had kind of revealed his church to me, and me having some of my own hang-ups and fears and anxieties. And I felt like as I was praying with that passage one day in a very particular way, as Thomas is invited to stick his hand in Jesus' side, that was the moment that I felt like he just kind of said hey, come and actually taste of this. So that was actually like right before I joined RCIA. But I think in the actual painting that struck me the most in that kind of image is just like Jesus's flesh that's actually kind of wrinkled, as you can see is Thomas's hand going in it. And it just evokes in me
how open the wound is there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it evokes this certain sense of like these encounters that happen in Scripture are remarkably like profound, you know? And sometimes it's very easy, like with the prodigal son, I mean, how many millions of times do we hear these things? And yet, if you actually like sit with them again in a very kind of, you could say, docile or just kind of open disposition, no matter what is going, different seasons of your life, like the Lord will really minister to you through them, as we all know. And I just feel like again and again and again that whole image of particularly the hand actually touching Jesus' flesh and going in the side really strikes me. It always evokes in me a certain sense of the Lord saying, like, just take courage and let me kind of bank your life on me.
Do you remember hearing the story of the prodigal son when you were a kid or when you were younger?
Ooh, so when I was younger, I don't actually. I wasn't really rolling with the church or the Lord then. We were kind of Lutheran, but I remember hearing it actually probably in college a number of times, and was always struck by like, okay, like I'm probably the prodigal son in a lot of ways, and was always moved by it. There was a song actually when I was in college that this kind of wacky, awesome guy who's now Catholic, he was Baptist at the time, wrote about the prodigal son. That always kind of struck me. But in RCIA, the way it was pitched to us, I remember, was just like a new kind of revelation of not so much just the son returning to the father, but as probably you both have heard, this great like kind of profound look into the Father that really struck me in a new way, I think, which really gripped my life and helped me to kind of come to know the Father in a way that I just hadn't at the time. And this was, I don't know, mid-college or late college, I guess, post-college. Probably post-college when this happened. So
Yeah.
Right after. Like
One more
literally
question.
the year after. Yeah.
How did you decide to read the Brothers K? That is a big jump.
So I got to say that like I used to not really read a whole lot of books growing up, so I used to ride dirt bikes and read Cliff Notes, is what I used to kind of say. So I've kind of like started reading it like when I started to meet the Lord in college. But the Brothers K has been one a long time on my list, and this dear, great guy, Phil Breimer, who used to be a SEM, he lent it to me. I never gave it back to him, unfortunately. I meant to, but he just moved out before I was able to. And this gracious, awesome nun that my brother and I know, there's a whole group of sisters, they're Byzantine over by Cleveland, she's got some Russian roots, and she's like, I've been really wanting to go through Brothers K. We were visiting all of them in Christmas, and we're like, we've been kind of wanting to read it. Zach's already read it. And I'm like, I've never even read it. I've been kind of meaning to, so why don't we all do it as a book club? So we meet like once a month online and chat it out. And
that's awesome.
I'm usually behind and kind of out in the clouds, but it's good anyways. So.
Well, Phil, if you're listening, reach out to us. We'll help you get your book back.
Yes, Phil.
Great.
I'd like to hear from you anyways, Phil. So.
Thanks, Deacon. Deacon Drew, we'd love to hear about like how you entered into a relationship with the Lord, what your story was and is about kind of living in that relationship with Jesus.
Sure. Yeah, so I was baptized in the Lutheran ecclesial reality, if you will.
Ecclesial reality. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know. The Lutheran denomination. I was in a Lutheran setting back in the good old great state of Georgia.
Dang, a Southerner.
Yeah. So this was like when I would have been 10, I believe.
Okay.
And we grew up, kind of classic American, maybe Christian kind of setting. We prayed before meals, believed in God. Parents were really kind of committed, devoted, kind of just good folks. But never really like, I wouldn't say the gospel was anything like central to our kind of upbringing, or at least in an explicit way. And like, so I remember being in Catholic school, because we went to Catholic school. Makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. That's why I was being in Catholic. That's why I was in Catholic school.
But you weren't Catholic
But I wasn't Catholic at the time. So I remember being in Catholic school, maybe like late grade school, heading into middle school, and like seeing the crucifix and knowing this is like pretty fundamental to the whole reason why we're here and this is important. Remember going through religion class. Remember always feeling as I went through those years like these people like kind of have it all together and I probably don't. So I don't know if I'm like all that, like ever going to really like feel comfortable in this crowd, even though I was only like in middle school. So I wasn't like, robbing stores or something, just to give you the right impression here. But so fast forward, go through this kind of just very nominal kind of practice of things, and got into high school. I got an older brother. He's 3 years older, and he starts getting to late high school, starts to have a bit of a conversion. Grew up really passionate about dirt bikes and anything with two wheels, and was really into motocross, and was a little like skater punk guy in grade school. Used to like kind of rebel by wearing my skate shoes to Catholic school.
Were they Heelys?
No, they were actually. I wore Vans, I wore Etnies, and E-Americas.
Okay.
So, and I think I had a pair of DCs too. This is way too much about me already.
Dang,
Anyways,
no, this is good. Keep it up.
Yeah, so rolled into high school, went to a year of Catholic high school, then to public school, was like really deep into motocross. We kind of fizzled out of practicing at a Lutheran kind of congregation. We had done a little bit of that in grade school and in middle school, then kind of fizzled out because we had moved. And so my brother's having a bit of this conversion. I'm really entrenched in the motocross world. And I remember like by senior year, I had kind of, my life was in a lot of ways kind of far away from God, and had a lot of, my dead set hope was like, if I can just kind of like get into motocross more, move out to California and like hang out in SoCal in my van and ride dirt bikes every day and like work in the motocross scene, like life's gonna be great.
This is basically also my dream. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I never moved out to California, and my bro ended up having this kind of much deeper conversion, started reaching out to me. A whole host of people had been reaching out to me, and I ended up breaking my leg really bad. And then I remember thinking, like, for some reason, right before that happened, I remember reading these stories. You can die really quick because if you break your femur, you can like die of blood loss really quick. Wow. So I just cried out to God because my femur was clearly broken, and I was like, would love to kind of meet you if you get me through this. And it was a little more prayerful than that, but
but not much more prayerful.
Those were different days, you know. So I was like, Lord, just like if you get me through this, just reveal yourself to me. I think I want to like. I don't know why I'm alive. That's basically kind of what I said.
Yeah.
And he got me through, and I started. My brother had been part of this campus ministry. He started reaching out to me, and eventually that kind of like led me to kind of come around that scene a bit, and then go to a non-denominational church for a year and a half or so. Transferred to Eastern Michigan, got hooked up with some Pentecostal brethren, and started to hear the gospel pretty clearly, at least the basic kind of presentation of the cross and resurrection of Jesus, and that I could actually be forgiven of my sins, and that kind of rocked my world. And so eventually got hooked up in this campus ministry that my brother had been a part of.
Is this at
Eastern Michigan?
At Eastern, okay.
Yeah, I just started to kind of live this kind of more orderly life of discipleship. I moved into a Christian guy's household, which was like 6 dudes living in a house we rented, and it was an awesome time. We'd pray morning prayer together, have dinner a couple times a week, and then we pretty much just lived normally and have like just kind of good, like, we weren't like, we weren't weird. I don't know. Maybe we were weird. I just didn't realize it.
That's a huge component.
Or we tried
not
to be weird. We probably were weird to some degree, but you know what I mean.
But to you, these were guys you could relate with, guys who like you enjoyed being around, challenged you, and had the same values and goals about life, right?
Yeah, and I would think I would say that there was a certain kind of just honesty and like kind of down to earthness about it. Like, there wasn't like. We knew we were going towards the Lord, and we knew that like life was filled with all sorts of challenges, trials, struggles in the Christian life. When I say that,
right? And
so these guys were just kind of really trying to live it. So it wasn't like there was no kind of like Well, I'm sure were fallen people, but we were trying to not make it superficial, you know. And we also just wanted to have like this good kind of wholesome, like we want to be able to celebrate, like throw a good party, you know, and do these things that. That were still fun, you know. We had good beer, and we like hung out on the porch, and we smoked cigars, and we all got skate shoes one time together online because that was like a household thing to do. And
I feel like you're the one who made it.
I might have like kind of coerced them into that at the time.
Encouraged it.
Yeah, we all ordered together, and it was like little things like that, you know, like were ways to bond. I remember people would come over for dinner, and we'd like share the faith with them at times, you know, and share the Lord with them. So it's just awesome kind of space to live in, and that really deepened me in my commitment to Jesus and just wanting to kind of like press into him more. And so then, long story short, that year kind of formed me. I was in UCO. I went on a mission trip to Mexico. The same time had, you know, kind of started to read my way in the Catholic Church. And
what were you reading?
I was just kind of, at the time, I was becoming a very Catholic Protestant, you could say. And so I was like starting to kind of see this reality of the sacraments and the liturgy and like how necessary this was for me to deepen my own spiritual life.
But are you reading like Church Fathers,
so
the Catechism,
at the time it was like
Scott Hahn?
It started with the Lutheran Catechism.
Okay.
And that led me to kind of like checking out just, I would say like some excerpts from the Fathers. And then I read Rome Sweet Home.
By Scott Hahn.
By Scott Hahn, yes, thank you. Yeah. And who's the guy from Ann Arbor? I should know his name.
Steve Ray.
Steve Ray.
Yep.
Steve Ray, Catholic speaker, author, and pilgrimage guide. He lives in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
This kind of led to me talking to another buddy who was Catholic, who loved the Lord really deeply more than I did. And I was like, this guy really loves Jesus, and and he's Catholic.
Right.
And,
Whoa.
yeah, radical. And so we went out for beers and just kind of would talk this out. And he took me to adoration before I even knew that. I was like, is this really you, Lord?
Wow.
And I think it is,
Yeah.
And that started to have a huge effect on me. So we were just sitting in the chapel for a couple hours and just saying, Lord, I think this is really you. Like, I kind of already believe that I think this is the Lord,
Wow.
We believed as Lutherans, there's some sort of real presence at that time, but without going all the way into the Catholic kind of understanding.
Right.
And I was getting to this point in my life where I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord, like everything was kind of thrown up against the church, like has been answered. I'm starting to get a little scared. I remember reading on a retreat where Jesus hands the keys to Peter and just being convicted as all heck when I read that. It's just like, it's no more like a question of if I enter the church, but when. And I really want it. I don't have anything and there's nothing that's stopping me. Every question I had so far, you've answered.
But when did you become Catholic?
Easter of 2012, I came into full communion with the church by the grace of God. And,
You were confirmed.
Welcome home.
thanks. Yeah, no, it's great.
And now you're a transitional deacon.
Yeah.
So 2012 became Catholic. When did you enter seminary?
Seminary was like fall of 14.
Wow.
I think.
Were you thinking about ministry before?
Yes, there's a lot of details of the story that
Yeah,
would probably be
of
helpful.
course.
That year started to unfold, and I was like, Lord, I think like you're starting to fulfill me and satisfy me in a way that I just never would have imagined. And this invitation, like, I just want to give everything to you because you've been so merciful to me, and like you've really set me free in a way that I could not even begin to explain. And so yeah, that kind of provoked me. So I was already kind of considering that way of life before I entered the church. And when I came in to RCIA, I was taken by the sacraments. I was particularly taken by confession and Mass, and particularly just the role of the priest making known the Father, I think. And I just started having these desires while being with, like, Lord, I kind of want to be a priest. I don't even know if I'm not even Catholic yet, kind of. But I started having these thoughts and these things come to me in prayer. And so anyways, that's kind of, it was brewing a bit before, but I eventually kind of bit the bullet, and jumped in.
Yeah. So
And here you are.
So you have a brother who's a priest.
I have a brother who's a priest.
Who's
yeah.
ordained in 2015.
Yeah.
And now you were ordained a transitional deacon in
In April.
April of
Yes.
2019.
Thanks be to God, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your story with us, Deacon.
My honor.
Hey, friends. Let's jump in. Let's get a little bit intense. Let's jump into marker 6.1, going out, unleash the gospel letter. You guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Let's talk about it because I think that this one is a little bit where the rubber meets the road. We can talk a lot, but all of us get places where it's like, wow, now is when this is tricky. So
Yeah.
Unleash the Gospel talking a little bit about leaving the walls of our church where it is safe, where people say the right things and probably have their prayers memorized, right? And then we go out.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And then we go out. And Deacon Drew, you're really good at this.
There's a certain sense when you go out into the world that we can say even a lot of good Christian things. We can give them like the 4 spiritual laws, and those are all great things, don't get me wrong. But like I think it strikes me, at least, this is just my own opinion, that most people you encounter are like really, they want to see something sincere. They want you to actually see them. They want you to be willing to like enter into their suffering with them, to listen to them, to be with them. Mm-hmm. There's a certain way in which you just got to be relational and kind of human with people before you can even kind of get in anything that's it wasn't like I walked up to him with a pamphlet or like said, hey brother, like, do you know the gospel? As great as that can be, I think there's a time for that. But there's a way in which I think much of this is like, hey, who do I know? Like, who am I standing next to, in these lines? Like, I really want to get to know you, before I even feel like I've reverenced your human dignity enough to kind of give you something. Yeah. Not that you have to listen to him for 4 weeks or something before you can say anything spiritual. That's not what I'm saying. But there's a certain way in which
there's an art to it, right? There's the relational part that's not about a flow chart of science or
Sure.
of engineering,
Mm-hmm.
if yes, go here, if no, go here. But there's the relationship piece that says,
Yeah, so true.
that there's something in you that want to see, I want to get to know, and I know the Lord wants to do something there.
Yeah.
So I think that is so key. You know, this says the new evangelization cannot be accomplished from within the walls of our churches.
Sure.
So accurate.
Yeah.
And so tricky too, and so messy, because that's when like answers stop being there. You know, like, how do you best love someone? That's something that Julia, my friend Julia, and I talk to each other about a lot. Like,
sure,
because sometimes you get in situations you're like, how do you address this person? How do you address the lifestyle decisions that they're making? You know,
sure.
in love, how do you best love? That's kind of what it boils down to.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it starts with the way we live, just our own kind of being sold out for the Lord. Not in, I like how you said, like, not in a weird way, in a way that's off-putting, but like Jesus is really clearly the center of my life.
Yeah.
And so that when I enter into like even like really ordinary or superficial relationships, like I bring that core with me,
sure.
and I love that person out of that core, even if it's not like the first conversation is like, let me tell you about my friend Jesus, right?
Sure. Right.
Sure.
But it comes from a place of like, the reason I want to hear your story, the reason I want to take 2 hours and sit down and talk with you is because Christ loves me and he calls me to love others the way he loved me.
Sure.
Amen.
There's something too, I think, just like we have a professor here who mentioned this last semester to us in, like, I think it was pastoral counseling, but he was just saying in the church, you know, we should bring, because as we come to know Jesus more, we should become more human, we should become more fully alive, right? And so there's this way in which we should bring this kind of, it's not like a forced presence.
Mm-hmm.
It's like kind of a natural presence. Like, hey, I'm kind of like, I'm in love with God and I'm like really like alive. And I'm not like, I'm not trying to do this so you can see it. Like, I love God and I want to love him more. And I've found the one who like shows me the whole reason of my existence and who I have existence. And I would love to, and because of that, I love you too. And not like in a not like in a, again, kind of a superficial way, but like I really want I kind of want to get to know you. I want to see like what your life's about. And so I just, it strikes me that, you know, Father, you mentioned like it isn't this kind of surface level reality, you know?
Yeah.
It's often, it's almost like we, as the salt of the earth, we should be kind of like, we should be salty. We should bring, I think, flavor to life. People should see my life and say, oh my gosh, like you kind of get something that I'm just not getting. Like you see what's good and true and beautiful in the world, and you're able to kind of like, you're living this divine life, like it's in you, and I can kind of just experience it when I'm with you, you know, in a certain way.
Yeah, I heard one person explain like life with Christ is like seeing things in full color, and life without Christ is like seeing them in black and white, right? Or two-dimensional. Sure. And you just see kind of a new depth to it, a new, like, the person suffering isn't just an inconvenience in my life or an inconvenience on the periphery of my life, but they really become someone that I'm interested in, I care about. And I think you do this really well, Danielle. I think you have a real gift for that.
Father Steve, thanks a mil.
I mean, how do you think about that? Because you have... I think we've talked about it a couple of times. Like, you are not someone who is like spending every moment of your day with people who are always found within the church.
I wish I was better at that. And it's interesting because I just had an instance that we were talking about before we started recording where I'm a part of this community, and someone online in this online, like the online portion of the community that also exists in real life, kind of made a dig against the church. And I kind of gently went in and was like, hey, respectfully, like this comment is hurtful. And they responded with this long comment, and they were like, I don't really care, I'm right and you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dang it. So it's funny because you're saying these things, but I'm also like, well, where the rubber meets the road, it's a lot harder in real life. But
do you think part of going out is enduring that?
Yeah, right. Was that like a dad Jesus question directed at my heart? Okay.
Because, you know, I mean, I don't want to be too kind of like, oh, poor me, but so I don't mean it this way, but like I wear my clerics pretty much all the time, and certainly every time I travel.
Which is, just in case someone doesn't know what that means.
So the clothes that make me look like a priest,
like
the black shirt with
the
little white plastic collar thing. And, you know, there's lots of good that comes from that, but there's a lot of like dirty looks and people who don't like it. And I think part of being out there is like, in some small passive way, even engaging people who feel that way and think that way, and just kind of letting them, just receiving that from them, right? Letting them know that, like, I'm not afraid of that.
Right.
I'm not afraid of whatever, whether it's a wound or a hurt they've experienced, or whether it's a kind of a prejudice that they've allowed to creep in. Like, hey, that's okay. Part of imitating Christ or wanting to bring Christ into the world is being able to receive that rejection with love.
Kind of like the two standards of St. Ignatius of Loyola. And that you can pick, what do you want? Do you want poverty, insults, and humility? That's like what Jesus offers. And you're like, I guess.
What's behind door number 2?
No, door number 2 is like pride, vain glory, riches, wealth, fame, but then also like Satan steals your soul. So it's like, in the end, I'd rather just have the heart of Jesus. Fine. It's cool.
So let's talk about how we do that, right? Like, it's messy, it's hard.
Sure.
What I hear you saying, Deacon, is like just listening to people, receiving them where they are, and being willing to invest time in them.
Yeah, and I think, Father, you brought up a good point, and so did you just a second ago, Danielle. Like, the whole visibility of the church. Like, I've been struck in my lowliness as a deacon of, like, even just wearing the collar. People have commented many times, like, oh, I didn't know you guys were still around, or like, there's just a certain sense of, like, not that you have to wear the collar, but like, hey, like, you're just out praying your rosary and walking. Like,
right.
There's a certain, like, you don't have to do anything radical. Like, you don't have to wear a big shirt that just says, like, hey, come talk to me about Jesus. Oh, that'd be great if you want to do that.
Yeah.
But, like, you just kind of like go into, it seems to me like that's the whole point of the new evangelization, is like to actually go out and kind of be the leaven in the world. Not that we put on stuff necessarily. Certainly we put on good stuff at the parish, but like, just go out and, like, you're a cook at a diner, like, don't be afraid to just kind of like take a break and go pray, and like be willing to be real with people and talk and like ask deeper questions, and like love people and provoke them. And I think the visibility of the church in the world is key to, like, just provoking people that are like super far away from God, that maybe hate the church.
Right.
Well, at least in my experience, we'll talk to you and say, like, hey, like, I don't believe anything you believe in, but like, I'm a little struck that you'd actually want to do that with your life. Or I'm a little struck that, like, why would you want to have 8 kids? That just seems mind-boggling to me.
Do you have any like experiences of that? Like, you being out in clerics, like, what's your most surprising thing that you were like, wow, didn't see it coming, but okay?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people ask really weird questions, right?
Sure.
So, like,
do you worship Mary?
No, but more about celibacy and chastity.
Oh,
like,
wow.
they'll want to talk about my personal life with that.
Sure.
Which I've gotten more okay with, right? Like, finding the right boundary, but also being really open about that.
Sure.
Yeah.
When I was discerning priesthood, that was a huge question for so many of my friends. Like, you know what that means, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, wait, what?
I read the Bible
really?
every Sunday? Is that what you're talking about?
Right. But, yeah, I love it. It feels like when I get to wear my clerics, and we'll talk a little bit about the role of the laity and all this.
Absolutely.
Too.
Yeah.
But just wearing clerics in public is a chance for people to know that I want to be Christ in the world. I think the clerics are a sign of Jesus. They're meant to be that sign that Christ is in the world, and he wants to bring you, like, he wants to be wherever you are. So for me, that's happened when I'm traveling, when I'm at the grocery store. That's happened just kind of walking around. I work downtown Detroit, so if I'm going to lunch or if I'm just walking around.
Someone actually just sent me a picture of you and said, look at this priest unleash the gospel. And you were like walking down the street.
Yeah. So I don't know. I might know who sent that, but I don't know. But I want to talk about, like, the role of the laity in this too.
Sure.
Because not every person listening to this can throw on a clerical shirt, or should.
I
throw on a
could. No, just
clerical
kidding.
shirt. Right.
No, that would
could
be a
and should
mistake.
are different.
Yeah.
But, I think about, these little signs of praying a rosary or praying in a restaurant before a meal, or inviting a neighbor in your in your neighborhood to, seeing them sitting on their porch and going over and talking with them. And, just inviting people either to prayer, to conversations about things, or just sharing a little bit of the joy in your life that comes from your relationship with Jesus. I mean, all of us have opportunities to do that. if we have the heart of Christ to say, my faith isn't meant to be just in the walls of the church.
Yeah.
Deacon Drew, is there anything that you would like to tell our listeners?
Yeah, I think first of all, no matter where you are, Jesus is Lord, and he's like in this with you, especially when we talk about going out. Like, let the places where you've been redeemed, like let the places where the Lord's ministered to you become these like places that you minister out of, you know? Mm-hmm. So we don't just believe that Jesus merely just pardons us from our sins. We believe in a gospel that can actually make a person new again.
With power.
With power, yeah. Like they can turn a murderer into a saint. And for real, like that's really real. Otherwise, we might as well all go home because like
right,
the power's not there. But we believe in the gospel, and that's the reality of it. So like to live with a certain sense of hope and conviction in Jesus and in the church, because they can't be separated. If we should be anything in the world, it's like we should be making the world more human, bringing the fire of the gospel and helping them like come alive again in Jesus.
Thank you so much, Deacon Drew. We've had a great time with you.
This is awesome. Thank you guys very much, and the Lord reigns forever.
I'm always edified to sit down with Deacon Drew and hear about his relationship with the Lord and how much he doesn't love social media.
And once again, before we say goodbye, if you liked this episode, please share it with your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, your Trader Joe cashier. You can also leave us a review on iTunes. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Our handle is @OpenDoorDetroit. Help us unleash the gospel. Open Door Policy was produced by Ron Pangborn and the creative team of the Archdiocese of Detroit.
Are you ready to run and roll? It's like rock and roll.
I know. I understood the joke.
I'm Father Steve Polis with Danielle Center.
And this has been another episode of Open Door Policy.